I'm Anthony Jewett from St. Mary's in Park City, and this is Rejoice in Hope, an audio series on discovering Jesus Christ. Around Christmas every year, you will begin to see nativity scenes being put up that show figures or images of Mary and Joseph looking lovingly upon the child Jesus in his manger. Usually, Mary and Joseph will be on either side of the infant as they admire him, but more modern models of the scene will show them close together as a typical married couple would be. The nativity scene is ultimately a depiction of the first time the Holy Family is together in its entirety, and it should give us an idea of the dynamics between Mary, Joseph, and Jesus. But there's an issue here. Clearly, the Holy Family is unique and different from other families. Mary and Joseph are not your standard married couple, and Jesus is not your standard child. So how should we accurately understand the Holy Family? How different are they really from any other family besides their holiness? In the past few episodes, we've touched a little bit on the relationship between Mary and Joseph when it comes to Mary's virginity. All Christians believe in the virginal conception of Jesus, but there's evidence that reveals to us that Mary remained a virgin throughout her life, even after her marriage to Joseph. This is certainly the Catholic understanding of their relationship, but the problem here is that it might give rise to very significant misunderstandings about the Holy Family. If Joseph and Mary were never intimate with each other in this way, like other married couples are, then some people are going to start to believe that they were a make-believe couple, or that their marriage was merely a cover to protect the reputation of Mary around those who did not know the real story. And if any of this were true, then Mary and Joseph must have lived in emotional isolation from each other in order to avoid temptation. And what does this say about Joseph? If he wasn't the biological father of Jesus and he was never intimate with Mary, how much should we really consider him then to be a part of this Holy Family? If we take these misunderstandings, then Joseph is only seen as a make-believe father whose sole purpose is to give legitimacy to Jesus in Jewish society. The reason all of these errors became prominent was because early Catholic devotions towards the Holy Family tried to express them in such a way that elevated them to be lofty and unworldly. But the problem is that this is a direct contradiction of the Gospels, because the Gospels reveal to us that Jesus was conceived virginally and that Mary and Joseph were truly husband and wife. We covered the virginal conception in past episodes, but we know that Mary and Joseph were truly husband and wife because of the wording that's found in both the Gospels of Matthew and Luke. Matthew calls Joseph the husband of Mary. The angel instructs Joseph to take Mary as his wife, and Joseph, quote-unquote, takes his wife into his home. Luke writes explicitly that Mary is betrothed to Joseph, and neither Matthew nor Luke express this relationship to be a mere cover. This goes deeper. Matthew emphasizes that it was God who gave Mary and her child to Joseph as his wife and his son. At the command of the angel of the Lord, Joseph took Mary into his house as his wife and accepted the child as his own. Joseph also called the child Jesus at the command of the angel, which, by the customs of his people, made Jesus his own son. This is also important when we consider that the Messiah was supposed to come from the line of David. We don't know Mary's genealogy, and she very well could be an actual descendant of King David. But we do have Joseph's genealogy at the beginning of the book of Matthew, and that clearly shows to us that at least Joseph is a descendant of David. It was far more important to the Jews that Jesus be linked to David through his father, or his supposed father, rather than his mother. And in this case, his biological link to David is not as important as Joseph grafting him into the family of David through him. Jesus is recognized by society as the legal son of Joseph, and according to the Jews, the legal definition of fatherhood matters more here in the promise to David than Jesus' biological connection to David, because the Jews were at least able to recognize his connection to David through Joseph. Legal paternity was extremely important in Judaism, but Matthew seems to recognize something more than mere legal recognition. God is the one who hands guardianship of Jesus over to Joseph. When God gives something to any of us to guard and protect, it profoundly and truly becomes ours. And that's beyond mere legal recognition. You'll often hear new parents consider their children gifts from God. If we really believe this, and we should believe this, then Joseph is not only Jesus' father in a similar way to biological parents, but he is Jesus' father in an even more true and profound way, because God has given his own son directly to Joseph to care for and protect. This becomes evident when we realize that Joseph does for Jesus exactly what Yahweh did for Israel in the Old Testament. He saves him from destruction, and he brings him back to the promised land from Egypt. So why did Joseph want to quietly divorce Mary before the birth of Christ? If we look at the Aramaic words that underlie the Greek in Matthew chapter 1, verse 20, a proper translation might reveal to us that the angel is actually saying, "Joseph, son of David, do not fear to take Mary as your wife, just because the child was conceived in her by the Holy Spirit." If this is accurate, then Joseph was not trying to divorce her because of her apparent infidelity, because that would have been so grossly antithetical to what we know and what Joseph would have known about Mary's character. Instead, he tried to divorce her because he feared getting involved in the great mystery that he began to notice occurring within Mary. The angel then is trying to reassure him that he has been the one called to be the father of this child. Still, there does seem to be a distinction between Joseph and the two he is called to look after, because 4 times in the Gospel of Matthew we hear this phrase, "the child and his mother." It's used in the story of the flight of the Holy Family into Egypt. These words imply a distance between Joseph and the mother and child. And that's further emphasized when we compare Joseph's calling to the calling of Moses in Exodus 4, chapter verse 20. The wording of these 2 verses are identical, except Moses is said to have taken his wife and his sons, while Joseph is said to have taken the child and the child's mother. Despite his authentic fatherhood, there's still something special and unique that distinguishes Jesus and Mary from Joseph, even within the Holy Family. When we read Matthew, it becomes clear that the child is the single concern of Joseph, and Mary is his wife because she happens to be the mother of this child. That being said, we shouldn't assume that there was an emotional isolation between Mary and Joseph. So think about this. What causes the emotional bond between a regular married couple? At first, it's a reciprocal romantic love that doesn't manifest itself clearly until there is a child born between the two of them. When that child comes, romantic love turns into sacrificial love oriented towards something other than the two involved in the marriage. And sacrificial love is the greatest and most authentic form of love. In essence, the love between a married couple creates children. But in the Holy Family, the child, Jesus, is the one who manifests and solidifies the love between Mary and Joseph. Both Matthew and Luke revealed the uniting power of the child Jesus. Because of Jesus, Mary and Joseph go down to Bethlehem together. They suffer together because there was no room for them to lodge in the city of Bethlehem. Together, they save the child by fleeing to Egypt. Together, they present him in the temple. And together, they search for him when he leaves their sight. And together, they find him on the 3rd day. Mary and Joseph fulfilled their duties that all parents have for their children, but they also played a role in how Jesus grew into his culture and how he became aware of his messianic vocation. Because they both have a common goal of protecting and raising their son, we must assume that their warm and very human love for each other grew and deepened as they worked together to achieve this goal. After all, this is what fortifies every single human relationship we all have. When we orient our relationships towards something outside of ourselves, we grow closer to those with whom we work. It's true that the Holy Family was in a fundamentally unique situation that's never been seen elsewhere in human history. But God deeply desired that Jesus come to us through a humble family dynamic so that we could have the Holy Family serve as this perfect model for how the church should be. Our community, from the local parish level to the worldwide church to even our own homes, is strengthened and grows out of a common concern for the presence of Christ, not our personal relationships, not our blood relations, and not even our attractions with each other.